I was just getting out of a really terrible divorce and was trying to start over, but didn't have a very big budget. It was really hard to find a piece of land that allowed me to build a tiny house. And it was also tricky to talk to the bank because they didn't know what category to put me in because my house is 760 square feet. So they had to make a whole special loan just for me. It was definitely still a very stressful experience. I was wondering if I was making such a terrible mistake. Hi, I'm Alice. This is my tiny house that I call the Witch Hut, and I would love to give you a tour. Welcome to my kitchen. What was most important to me was having the kitchen on a different level than my bedroom, just so I don't have to smell cooking all the time. And I also really liked the idea of having open shelving because I have a lot of friends who are artists and I wanted to collect mugs and show off what I had gotten from my friends. And also I really like growing herbs, and so I like just having them be here. I always had the thought that I just wanted to start with whatever was cheapest, and hopefully I'll sort of grow into my house, and someday I'll be able to have handcrafted cabinets from a friend or really beautiful countertops, but right now it's my starting point. It didn't seem that important to me to have a dishwasher just because it's just me living in my house, and I also really like the process of doing my dishes by hand. I think it's a little bit grounding. What was most important was having a stovetop and an oven, and being able to have a really full-size one, not wanting to have one that was super tiny. My fridge I really love because it's sort of a 3/4 size fridge, so it's also perfect for one person. I think going in, I thought I was going to need a lot more cabinets than I ended up needing, and it feels like plenty of space for me. I was just getting out of a really terrible divorce and was trying to start over, but didn't have a very big budget. And I also really liked the idea of a house being a size just for myself. I reached out to Nanostead because they're the only place in Asheville really that does custom-built tiny houses. And I really wanted to work with someone who specialized in tiny houses because it's so different to build a big house versus a little house in terms of how you think about the space and how to make it feel bigger than it actually is. I really loved that Kevin, the designer, was so open to my ideas. They were also really understanding of the fact that I had a small budget because they're used to dealing with people who have small budget. It was definitely still a very stressful experience because the whole thing was happening with the pandemic as the background. So I closed on the contract to build my house the day that everything closed. The lady came out to my car from the law office in a full hazmat suit for me to sign my paperwork. And so I was wondering if I was making such a terrible mistake to be trying to build a house during this disaster. But looking back on it, I'm so grateful. Welcome to the living room. I really like that it's such a multi-purpose space. It started out in my mind as being just for me, and over the years, I've been adding more things to make it more comfy for friends to come over. It's definitely a flexible space in that I can just move the couches really easily because it's a concrete floor. Anytime I want to do pole dancing, and I also have my watercolor studio set up here. I also have a bunch of storage for all of my art supplies because I have a ton of them. And then behind me, Kevin also did a great job of trying to figure out where to put the washer and dryer. So he scooched them underneath the stairs and they work perfectly under there. I also love having sort of a utility room that's behind the laundry. It's really great to just have one room that's pure chaos, I think, that I just don't have to worry about. And then I have these really beautiful French doors that are actually it's like a double set of French doors. And when I worked with Kevin at Nanostead, we were both really adamant that this is a basement, and so it could get really dark down here. And so we wanted to have a lot of light, and it was really tricky to make it happen because my house is net zero ready, which means that it's just really energy efficient, but it's a lot harder to make that happen when you have big windows. So that was something that I did spend a lot of money on, was getting high efficiency windows and doors. But I felt like it was worth it to feel like it's not a basement in here. So I love that I can just do so many projects down here and it doesn't feel so stuck as just a dining room or just a living room. It can be everything for me. This is my entryway, and this is Kevin's idea. He was really stressing the importance when we were working together and designing the house of not just going straight into my bedroom when you open the door, or not going straight into the kitchen. You have this space where you can meet people and then decide where you want to go with them after that. And it's also a great opportunity to have more storage. So this is a really beautiful old cabinet that I use as a piece of art. And also it's a chaos drawer. Again, I think it's important to just have spaces where it can just be like, it doesn't matter what goes in there, everything. And I also really like having the high ceilings in here because it makes it feel bigger than it actually is in here. My bathroom. This is probably the space where I wish that I had more storage. I'm constantly shuffling through things, trying to figure out where I put a bottle of something or other. One thing that has been helpful is just having like a little wire extra storage thing that hangs on my towel rack for things that I use every day. I most love my bathtub. I have a bathtub and a shower, and I actually bought the bathtub before I even had any idea what the house was gonna look like because I really was so excited about having a bathtub. I do really like having handmade tile in here. Everything else is just kind of like as cheap as I could get it. And then I decided if I just have one thing that's really special, then it makes everything else feel more special in here. So the total cost of my house was $168,000. That was my loan, but then I paid out of pocket for things like my fridge and my washer dryer. That was a really amazing option that Nanostead offered me. The plot of land that I have is also really conducive for a tiny house because it's so small. It's only 1/10 of an acre, but it's part of a community that's high efficiency. So every house that's built in this neighborhood has to be either net zero ready or net zero. It was really hard to find a piece of land that allowed me to build a tiny house. And it was also tricky to talk to the bank because they didn't know what category to put me in because my house is 760 square feet. And so it's bigger than a normal tiny house, but smaller than a regular house. And so they just didn't know what to do with me. So they had to make a whole special loan just for me. And it was funny to talk to bankers because they were like, surely no one can live in under 1,000 square feet. But they can. And I actually think it's plenty of space. This is my bedroom. Definitely takes up the most space. Definitely makes it feel like I live in a bigger house when I have a bigger bedroom. And a big part of that is that the ceilings are really high, and so it feels like there's just infinite space in here. I have just a mini split for heating and cooling, and that works amazingly well. There's so much space in here that I have a little area for reading over in the corner, and it's also really nice to have a nice big closet. So it feels like there's plenty of room to do things, do more projects mostly. Also, my bedroom walks out onto my deck and it has a really sweet view of a big forest behind me, so that also helps give me a sense of space. I would say the only thing that's hard about my bedroom is that I live on a really busy road, and so if I were to build my house again, I think I would put my bedroom on the ground floor where it's insulated by the earth a little bit more. What advice I might give other people who are thinking about living in a tiny house, and I highly recommend it. Be really perseverant and grumpy with bankers. I definitely had to call the bank a few times and shop around and tell them to check my credit score again and check my accounts again, because I thought that I did qualify for a loan, even though they would argue with me that I didn't. So being perseverant and believing that it can actually happen goes a long way. I'm an artist for my job, and having this house constantly feels like I'm just working on another art piece. Thank you for watching my tour of my tiny house. I'm a jeweler as my job. I've been wearing all of my, or some of my work, and you can find more of it on my Instagram or my website. Thanks so much for watching.